Dan Ashworth, you are a dirty, rotten snake. A real snake in the grass, pal. But we'll come on to you in just a moment. Welcome, everybody, to the news show right here on the Toon Review YouTube channel. My name's Paul. Thank you so much for tuning in. As usual, if you do enjoy today's show, please do give it the thumbs up so that we can stay up there in the search results on YouTube. And fellow fans like yourselves will be able to find the channel and hopefully subscribe in the future. Now, there is other news as well apart from Dan Ashworth. We have been linked with two very, very good footballers. Apart from Tossan and, of course, Lloyd Kelly, these are two extras that may be coming to Newcastle United or may not. Gabiak Bonlaho has come out in the on his Talk Sports show and said that Eddie Howe is a liar after what happened in Australia yesterday. And of course, Dougie Friedman, the news that broke that he is staying at Palace and won't be joining Newcastle United, so we'll touch on that as well. But we'll start off with the snake, the anaconda, the cobra, the python of them all, Dan Ashworth. Now, everybody knows by now what's gone on. I haven't actually done a video on it since the story broke about the emails, etc. So I do want to have me 2 pennies worth in this, just to say that good riddance. Everybody knows what's going on now with regards to the emails and things like that. But I just think that this just shows you what kind of person that Dan Ashworth is. Because as soon as he found out that Manchester United was sniffing around, his name was getting linked with the club, he's sort of down tools at Newcastle. That's the impression I get, that he's down tools. Obviously, the emails that have gone on between two people, by the way, who are discussing Manchester United, but at the time didn't even work for Manchester United and still don't work for Manchester United. It is a disgrace. Now, I'm not going to sit here as a football fan and be completely ignorant and think that this sort of thing doesn't go on. Of course it does. Tapping up and players or staff, it goes on all the time. But you very rarely hear about it. But Dan Ashworth has been such a monumental bell end with this. He's dropped himself right in the shithouse. And listen, I really do hope that he gets punished at the highest possible level. And Manchester United, you are quite welcome to such a scumbag like that. Because listen, I'm a Newcastle United fan. I don't want to hear about a director of football at my club discussing Manchester United business when he's still at Newcastle United. I think it is an absolute disgrace. And this man has just proved to a lot of people what his actual, personality. You know, I would say personality, but where his actual heart lies, because he's not interested in doing anything at Newcastle. You know, he's done very little since he came in from Brighton, and the first opportunity he gets to jump ship, he goes. And by the way, he's going to a club that are in total turmoil behind the scenes with ownership and all of that crap. Jim Radcliffe claiming he's got thousands and millions of pounds to spend when he bloody hasn't. And Manchester United have got a lot of rebuilding work to be done. And quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, they are quite welcome to take Dan Ashworth. We don't need anybody at Newcastle United who is not committed to the club. And I've said this about players, we'll say it about staff as well. If you are not committed to my football club, bugger off. Sod off. We don't want you. I don't want anybody at Newcastle working for us who's not 100% committed to what we're trying to achieve at the football club. And as far as I'm concerned, this new ownership, they've come in and they're trying to create that huge family environment. But when they've got little snakes like him still crawling around in the grass, you don't want that. And, you know, he claims he was sacked by Newcastle United. He's talking out his arse because he's been caught. That's the only reason that he is coming up with all these different excuses, is because he's been caught. And yes, it goes on all the time behind the scenes, but when you're caught out on it, you deserve to be punished. And I think, you know, the FA will look at this, the Premier League will look at this, and they have to follow their own rules and punish every person that is involved in this. The guy at Man City who is on gardening leave, Dan Ashworth himself, and of course Manchester United, because it's an absolute shocker. Yet again, Dan Ashworth dragging Newcastle United through the news for the wrong reasons. And I just hope they throw the absolute book at him. Because from my point of view, and I hope you agree as a Newcastle United fan, he's a snake. And we don't want anybody like that associated with our football club. So there you go. That's my say on Dan Ashworth. You know, I will absolutely love to kick him all the way to Manchester and get on with his job down there. Because, quite frankly, you're an arse. End of story. A complete arse. Now, speaking of another arse, we move on to Gabriel Bonlaho. This self-made sort of Aston Villa legend, shall we call him? Because if you ask a lot of Aston Villa fans, this guy isn't a legend at the football club. TalkSport parade him around like some kind of king of Aston Villa. He's not that at all. He really isn't. In fact, Bell and End come to mind. Now, what he's done is, on Alan Brazil's radio show, they were talking about the incident yesterday in Australia where Kieran Trippier was substituted after 37 minutes. Eddie Howe came out after the game and said this was planned because of his previous injuries. And, of course, with the European Championships in sight, Kieran wants to take part in that, as you would. It's a big opportunity for England to win it this year, providing, things go our way and the manager makes sensible decisions. But we do have a chance. However, Agbonlahor has come out and said that Eddie Howe's lying. Alan Brazil made a comment saying, planned after 37 minutes. And he's like, come on, Eddie. You're pulling the wool over our eyes. How the hell would these two idiots sitting in this TalkSport studio know that Kieran Trippier, it was planned substitution or he is injured? Yes, he had an ice pack on his calf, but that is the same calf that he's had trouble with since he's been out injured. So it's only right that they look after that injury when he's come off. Now, listen, he may well have been injured yesterday. Absolutely may well have been injured. But if Eddie's come out and said it was a planned substitution around that time, because let's face it, it might have been in the 35th minute, but because of play going on, that's why it ended up in the 37th. So these monumental idiots at TalkSport, once again, sprouting a load of rubbish, trying to cause trouble at the football club, between managers, players, fans, whatever it may be. But if Eddie Howe said that was a planned substitution, I know who I'm going to believe, and that is my manager. So once again, these southern idiots down south sitting in a radio studio trying to cause problems and trying to make a story that's not actually there, yet again, bringing Eddie Howe and calling him a liar. You are an absolute disgrace, Agbonlahor, and you owe Eddie Howe an apology for something, saying something like that when you have not got a clue what is going on at Newcastle United. You haven't got an absolute Scooby. So what you are commenting, calling Eddie Howe a liar for, I think you're an absolute plum, mate. And I could say a lot worse, but I'm not going to. I'm really holding my temper at the minute because I just think you are an absolute... Well, I've said it. And let me know in the comments below what you think. What do you think Kieran Trippier was injured, or do you believe Eddie when he says it was a planned substitution? Let me know. Now, Dougie Friedman, staying at Palace. I have no idea why. I don't know what he's been offered at Palace that he couldn't have been offered at Newcastle United. I'm a little disappointed, simply because if we are restricted to bring players in the summer, we'd have to look down the lower leagues to try and find some gems. And Dougie Friedman has a past record of doing exactly that, bringing in gems into the football club. He's done it at Palace. You can see the players that he's brought on there who are now knocking on the door of international duty, etc. So I'm a little bit disappointed. However, there is names out there still. Whether Mancini's still in the mix, Mitchell's still in the mix, who knows? But listen, we know that Dougie Friedman was interviewed, and I just think if you're not fully committed to coming to the club, then don't go to the interview. I don't know what Palace have offered him. Obviously, they've offered him a very, very good deal because he's decided to stay there. But listen, Palace, for me, they're on an upward curve. Ever since the new manager came in, we can see the football that they're playing when they beat us. They have got some stars in there. Whether they'll lose a couple over the summer, but if they've got Dougie Friedman at the helm, he could easily bring in another couple of stars like Elise and Eze. One of those, he could easily find them again. So I'm a little bit disappointed that Dougie Friedman's not coming to Newcastle. But as they say, the old cliche is there's other fish in the sea, and Newcastle United will send that rod out again with bait on the end of it and see who comes calling. Simple as that. Now, just to update you a little bit on Tosun and Kelly, it has been reported that both are expected to sign for Newcastle United within the next couple of weeks. Obviously, with the season ending, I do believe players have gone on holiday, and also Newcastle United are in Australia, so a lot of the staff are over there. So that's what's probably holding up the deals on them. Apparently, this morning, Newcastle have sent a team down to meet with Tosun to speak to him about coming, but Lloyd Kelly has apparently already agreed terms, so we're just waiting for that to happen. Of course, Manchester United were interested in Tosun as well, but he prefers a move to Newcastle United, which makes me laugh with what's going on with Dan Ashworth, but that's just a different story, isn't it? But two very, very good players coming through the door on free transfers. We've discussed this before. Yes, injury problems for Kelly, etc. However, the fact that we're getting them both on free transfers makes these deals no-brainers for me to improve the squad. And I'm very much looking forward to having them. Now, moving on to players that may be leaving before we do the final segment, Wilson and Almiron. They are linked with moves away again this morning. Miggy is stated that he wants to stay at Newcastle United, but because of PSR and all the rest of the garbage, Newcastle will have to sell some players in the summer. Now, of course, they don't want to sell Isak, they don't want to sell Bruno, they don't want to sell Gordon, etc. So they're looking further down the ranks, and certainly Miggy Almiron is one that could get a decent amount of money for, as is Callum Wilson, because it is rumoured that a lot of teams in Saudi Arabia are looking at Wilson. So hopefully we can get a good bit of money for Callum and send him on his way to the Saudi League to continue his career. For me, that would be two people that I would probably expect to leave the club in the summer. Callum Wilson, injured a lot of the time, isn't he? Miggy just hasn't performed lately. So if we can get money for them too, then I would say yes. There's others there, of course, that could leave the club as well. But we'll just have to wait and see in the summer what they do. But Miggy and Wilson are the favourites to leave the club. Now, finally, the two players that, I was just about finished my notes for the news show today, and then this one cropped up, that Newcastle United are very interested in bringing Jared Bowen and Dominic Calvert-Lewin to Newcastle United. Now, Calvert-Lewin, for me, it's a no. I don't see what the... Yes, he's a good player when he's fit. Absolutely. I'm not denying that. He's a good footballer. He's a good striker. But he's never fit. And you look at his injury record, and it's worse than a lot of players that we've already got at the football club. So for me, I'm not really interested in Calvert-Lewin. I think there's better strikers out there for the money that we'd have to pay for Lewin. But the other one, Jared Bowen, absolutely 100%. He would solve our right-sided problems as well. Very talented player. Now, David Moyes is leaving West Ham at the end of the season, of course, or now. And Jared Bowen has stated that he could look to go elsewhere with the manager leaving. So, listen, Jared Bowen was a target in Steve Bruce's days. Apparently, he was at a service station on his way up to sign for Newcastle when Ashley decided to turn around and say it's not happening. So he was actually potentially a Newcastle United player a couple of years ago. That didn't happen, but he's gone to West Ham. He's done brilliantly there, and I just think he'd be an excellent signing. Certainly Calvert-Lewin for me would not be an excellent signing, but Jared Bowen would. He would be a player that would get you off your seat. He's a very, very good dribbler of the ball, a crosser of the ball. He can score goals. I don't see any problem with bringing him into Newcastle United. Now, as for transfer fees, God only knows. But I think Jared Bowen would probably cost quite an arm and a leg, as would Calvert-Lewin, because he's an English striker, even though he never plays. But we'll have to keep an eye on that. But the Jared Bowen one really interests me. So let me know in the comments below what you think of Jared Bowen. Would you have him at Newcastle, or do you think this is another pie in the sky? But this did come from Luke Edwards. I've said enough about Luke Edwards in the past, but to be fair to Luke Edwards, he doesn't print anything where there's no smoke without fire. So let's just maybe see. Jared Bowen could be on his way to the Toon. But there you go. That is the news show for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. The next live show is today. If you're watching this on Thursday, 7 o'clock, we have the end of season review. It is going to be a great show. Lots of awards for the Newcastle United players, like Player of the Season, etc. A few daft ones in there as well. And of course, the average player ratings for the season. Who has performed the best out of all our player ratings? So it's going to be a great show. So join me, Alex, Sam, and of course Billy Bob for that at 7. Don't forget to hit the like button, guys. And of course, if you're new to the channel and you like what you're seeing, please do subscribe. We're on the way to 30k, not very far to go now. It is free to do so. And don't forget to hit the notification bell as well, so you'll never miss a live show and you'll never miss an upload. But thank you very much for watching, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Take care.